All right, welcome everyone to our February 2026 Airflow Monthly Virtual Town Hall. This is actually our first town hall of 2026, as doing one the first week of January would have been a little bit difficult. So thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to join. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever in the world you are. So today we have a jam-packed agenda because we skipped last month. So Jed has the honor today of going over 2 months of project updates in just about 10 minutes. So good luck, Jed. And then, oops, apologies. And then we will go ahead and jump into a review of the Airflow survey results with Tamara. If you were on her webinar yesterday, there will be some repeats, but she also has some new information to share that is a little bit more relevant to folks on this call. And then we have two amazing PR highlights, one from Raoul Vatz and one from Jongwoo Do. And then I'll walk you through our community spotlight and we'll get you all out of here on time. Now, a couple things on this slide. If this is your first town hall, tune in. If you've been here before, you can tune me out. No decision making happens on these calls. So if you have questions and concerns and comments, please feel free to drop them in here. But then if they require further discussion, we'll take them over to the dev list. And then also this call is obviously open to everyone as if this is an open source community. And we always record these calls and we always post them to the Apache Airflow YouTube. So if you miss a town hall, you can always go listen to it there. We also post that YouTube recording in the town hall channel and Airflow Slack as well. So make sure that you're in that channel so you get reminded about town halls and also you get the recordings as well. So with that, I want to pass it over to Jed to chat about what's going on with the project right now. Jed, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's get started. Yeah, as Bree mentioned, we didn't have a town hall last month, so we actually have a lot of stuff to talk about here. We had four different core releases over the last 2 months. Yeah, shout out to Ephraim, our release manager there, for kind of getting those all out, and hey, for everybody else for helping test and making sure that they were successful. If you haven't updated, there are a few CVEs that were announced as being fixed in these versions. So yeah, update if you have not. And then I think I got all the provider releases. There was a lot of those as well. We had 5 different batches of releases there. And then I didn't put it on the slide, but we are in the process of releasing Helm chart version 1.19. There'll be an RC3 here soon. So keep an eye out for that if you're a Helm chart user. If we go to the next slide. So I'm pretty sure Yarrick mentioned this in the last town hall, but I just wanted to elevate it again. We have a public release plan, and that includes a shared Google Calendar. So if you are curious, like, hey, when's 3.1.8 coming out, or when's the next provider release, you can get an idea of when that might be. It's important to call out this is an intent, not a commitment from us as to like timing and whatnot. But this gives you a little bit of insight into kind of what we're thinking. Cool. Let's go to the next slide. Um, I know we also talked last time a little bit about doc site improvements, but I wanted to call out some of the changes here a little more explicitly with a nice screenshot. And so, as you can see, there's now a dark mode in our docs. It may be a little blurry, but use your imaginations. There's dark mode now. But then, probably more important or more interesting in my eyes is the search has been modernized. And so, you get a lot better search. Command K brings it up, or if you click in the search box, it brings it up. And yeah, so a lot better search is now possible. I guess Tamara, you like the dark mode more. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. I'll take the search. So yeah, and I think that if I remember correctly, that's been applied across the board as well. So you can even get access to it for older versions. So cool. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. So there's a couple important AIPs that have been accepted or that were voted on in the last 2 months, and so I wanted to spend some time talking about them. This one is my favorite personally. If you followed the community at all over the last year or so, we've had to become a lot more picky about what providers we accepted into the community. And so AIP 95 is a new provider governance process that will make it possible for us to accept more providers. They're the lifeblood of the community, but also without overloading the PMC and release managers. It defines new phases for providers with quantitative criteria to move between those phases. And if you wanted to introduce a new provider, we now require stewardship, which is at least two unique individuals to act as owners. It doesn't mean you get any authority or privilege, doesn't make you a committer or anything, but you do have the responsibility. And ultimately, the accountability still lies with the PMC. If we go to the next slide. Now I tried to. There's other quantitative criteria here as well, but I tried to get the interesting ones or the biggest ones into a nice table here so we can kind of look at them. So the phases are on the left. We have incubation, production, and then we have an attic phase, which then can lead to deprecation. And so to graduate from incubation to production, you need to have 10 PRs over a 6 month period, at least 10 PRs. If you you also need to have PRs being reviewed in a timely manner. Right now, that's every 2 weeks. You need to have at least 3 unique contributors over that 6 month period, and you have to close your issues in a timely manner, half of them in a 90-day period. Now, to stay in the production category cleanly, right? You need to have basically the same numbers here, but a little more contributors and a little better on your issue closed. Now, there's a little gray area, I think, but to squarely land in the attic, you need to have less than 5 PRs, 1 month or longer for your reviews, and then basically contributors dropping off. Basically, we want to have a nice way for if a piece of technology becomes, you know, legacy and isn't being used by the community, we want a way to get rid of that provider. Yeah, and then there's also, we don't have a slide for it here. There's also, I forget, I think the term is mature. There's a mature phase as well. And I think a good example would be the Slack provider. It's a very stable interface. We rarely have any changes there. There's really ever bugs, right? It's a mature interface that doesn't need a whole lot of love and care. The PMC has the ability to put providers that would otherwise fail some of these metrics into that mature category, so they don't end up automatically being sent to the attic or whatnot. And even though these are quantitative, I think there's still a little bit of wiggle room. Like the PMC still has the ability to vote and like have a provider land in production directly or keep things out of the attic or whatnot. So it's quantitative, but there's still a little bit of flexibility, I think. There's a lot more detail on this AIP, so if you are interested in it, I'd suggest you go out and read it. But now I'm like very excited. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good call out to Yarrick that we will adapt these as we kind of bump into where they don't make sense. But I'm excited that we're able to start accepting providers now. And actually, I think we have our first one that's right on the cusp of maybe being put to a vote or up for accepted. That's an Informatica provider. So that's cool to kind of see that process even starting now. Cool. And if we go to the next slide. Thank you. And then another exciting AIP that I wanted to call out that was voted and accepted is common data access patterns in AI. I probably won't do this one too much justice. So if this is an area of your interest, please go out and read that AIP. But at the end of the day, we're going to get specialized LLM operators, and we're trying to make sure that we put Airflow at the center of the AI-powered data infrastructure space. And then it also will let us make Airflow more data aware by tying into assets that we already have. So this is a very detailed AIP. Definitely go out and check it out if you are interested in this space. Next slide, please. Awesome. So the PMC had the privilege of inviting a couple new committers, or I guess I should say a few new committers. We had David Blaine, Daja, I'm not even gonna, actually, I'm not gonna try to say names. I apologize. We have these three wonderful folks that are now new committers in the project. And if we go to the next slide, we also had the privilege of inviting a few new PMC members, names that hopefully are familiar to you all already. So super exciting to see the ranks grow. Uh, cool. Next slide. All right. This number is actually probably out of date. That's how quickly the community moves. I was shocked to see over the last two-ish months that we had over 1,000 commits. So there's a lot of things to kind of look through, but I went through some of them, and this is some of the highlights in my eyes. SQL Alchemy 2 support is going to come in 3.2, long awaited. So excited to see that. There was also a lot of who wrote multi-tenancy? Bad Jed. That should say multi-team. Multi-team changes landed in for 3.2. And then there's a lot of work also on asset partitions. So those are some things that are going to be looking like they're going to land for 3.2. And yeah, I think that was the end of my section here.
Okay, great. Any questions for Jed? Please drop them in the chat and he will go in and answer them in the order they are received. Thanks for bearing with me through the annotation fiasco. I got that cleared off the screen. All right, next up, we have our presentation by Tamara from Astronomer. She's going to cover the state of airflow 2026. Tamara, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, do you want me to drive? I have a couple of animations, so I don't tell you to click every.
Yeah, totally fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna take over. Okay, you should see my screen now. Okay, so I'm very excited to talk to you about the State of Airflow 2026, which is based on the Airflow Survey 2025. If you were at the State of Airflow webinar yesterday, some of the things will be familiar. Please don't spoil anything in the chat, but there will also be new information for you. So the Airflow survey, last year we had the largest Airflow survey in history, and as far as we know, the largest data engineering survey that had ever existed. And this year we just blew that out of the water again. There were 5,818 responses. So just a lot of people in the Airflow community who responded to the survey. And thank you so much if you responded. It's amazing. Or if you promoted the survey, it really, really helps the maintainers to figure out what to prioritize. And what makes me even more happy is when you see how the respondents come from all corners of the world. So there were 122 unique countries from people who responded. So it's a very diverse and global community. We didn't ask for country, we asked for city, which gives us even more granularity. So you get this plot of cities, and every single dot on this plot is at least one person who uses Airflow. And this is one of my favorite plots to make because you can see how all over the place people are. And we can have some friendly competition. So, which are the top 5 cities according to how many people fill out the Airflow survey? On place 5, we have Chennai. You can start guessing who's on place 1. On place 4, we had Colombo in Sri Lanka. Then on place 3, we had Mumbai. Just 3 more people. So you can see if you just have a few friends and get them to fill out the Airflow survey, you might like push the needle and get your city up one more. Sao Paulo, with a huge Airflow community with 247 people responding. Now, who won? Was Bangalore. 324 people responded from Bangalore. So huge thanks to the city of Bangalore. Yes, India. India also had the most overall respondents in front of the US and in front of the US, who was on place 2, and Brazil, who was on place 3. But last year, Brazil was on place 1. So these things can change. Ask your friends to also fill out the Airflow survey. Now, I also like to zoom in a little bit. So if we zoom in on Asia, we can see the big cities here, but we can also see there's a presence in Jakarta, there's a presence in Bangkok, in Delhi, and just all over the place. You will find Airflow users in a lot of the major cities around the world. Of course, South America, you can see all the people in Brazil. If you look at Africa, we had a lot of respondents from Cairo this year, which was really interesting. Lagos, of course, which has its own Airflow meetup community, and Casablanca. Europe. So one of these dots is me. And in Europe, you can see a lot of people are in Paris, 120 people. We had also had a lot of people in London, Berlin. And other than that, there were a lot of responses from Warsaw and Moscow as well. Yes, go Nigeria. And then also Australia, you can see here we have like people concentrated in the big hubs, which is what we expect. Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth won here. But there were also 9 respondents from Wellington, so even New Zealand is represented. Last but not least, the US. Here we can see Mexico City had a lot of respondents, Toronto, New York, but also, for example, Seattle. And you might be wondering, wait a second, you didn't talk about like the big purple blob. What is that? If the other one is New York, what's going on here? Huh. I already had this moment last year, and if you were at the town hall where I presented the Airflow survey last year, you know the answer to this question. But what is there? That's in North Carolina. What big tech hub is in North Carolina? And what happened was we had a lot of people who said they were from Indian Beach. And I looked it up. It's a small city in North Carolina. I don't think there's a big tech presence. And I think what happens, and this is your important note, if you do any data work, always sanity check, double check if it fits your assumptions, have data quality checks who do that automatically. We think, or at least I think, people from India were looking for their city, typed in India, saw Indian Beach, and assumed this just means, okay, I'm in India, I'm close to the beach, selected that, not realizing that's a place in the US. So for next year, I don't know if Typeform can restrict just one answer options if we want to put it in the question. But yeah, I thought that was really funny to see that. It happened the same way last year. So yeah, it's probably not a huge community of Airflow users in North Carolina. Now, this was more like we expected. We asked people what their job title was, and the large majority said they are data engineers. But we can also see other job titles, including AI titles like data scientists, machine learning engineers. So a lot of other people also starting to use Airflow. And one shout out, I already said this yesterday, but I just love this response. We all feel that, all of the above. I think that's kind of the direction that the data sphere is going into, that we get asked to do everything. We get asked to do something with AI, sometimes with no further explanation of what that means. We get asked to implement all sorts of pipelines. So maybe next year we should have an option that says all of the above. There's just so much going on and so much that you can do with Airflow. In terms of experience, we have the expected curve of more and more people get experienced. We had some graybeards with 8 or more years of experience. But also what made me really happy here, how many people are just getting started with Airflow. So we had 27.8% who said they had less than a year of experience. So people are coming to the project, and this is really a sign of having a healthy project. If it's not just the people who've used it for 5 years who keep using it because they are so set in their ways, it's a lot of new people who come in. Now, what are people doing with Airflow? As expected, a lot of people have AI and have ETL and ELT use cases, especially related to analytics. But there are more and more people who use Airflow for MLOps and AI. And if we compare this to last year, we can see that now we have almost a third, or really a third of people use Airflow for AI and ML use cases. And this is up from 20%, 27% last year. With Gen AI especially, we had almost 400 more people who say, yes, I use Airflow for Gen AI. Now here I wanted to double click on further, more than I did yesterday in the webinar. What happens if we look at the experience level related to how people use Airflow? So I've separated this out. Yellow are people who have just 1 or less year of experience with Airflow. Blue is people with 2 to 4 years, and everyone who has 5 or more years is purple. And you can see here, the more experience people have, the more they use Airflow. So they use it for more use cases. That makes sense. So purple is always the bar with the most respondents. But then you see something interesting. It goes step by step down, right? With one exception. It's subtle, But with AI, we suddenly have more beginners who say they use Airflow for AI. Now, small numbers, and this might just be how I interpret it, but I choose and like to interpret this as you use Airflow more, you use it for all sorts of things. But there's also a contingent of people who are coming to Airflow and they were asked to implement AI first, tried that, realized you really need orchestration for AI in production, and then turned to Airflow. So this is something that I'm really excited watching next year and the years ahead. Will there be more beginners whose first Airflow use case is Airflow? And then we should see the yellow bar here going up more, maybe even than purple and blue. There was also a write-in option. I just screenshotted some of my favorite ones, like satellite data processing. I would be so curious to see the pipelines. Processing of geospatial data. Use cases, two people here that say their product is built on top of Airflow, like a data platform based on Airflow, a managed file transfer product. So it's really, really interesting to see what people are doing with Airflow. High-load software testing. I never even thought of that, but it makes sense. So really, the answer, what you can do with Airflow is just orchestration. Now, when you have that much Airflow use cases, you also have a lot of Airflow instances. We have several questions about the scale of Airflow. This is just the one I picked out now, because you can see that most people have between 1 and 6 Airflow instances, but there are some companies, and it's highly correlated with companies that are very large, so 50,000 or more employees, who have 20 or more Airflow instances. And then in the write-in options, I saw several people saying things like 1,000. So we have people who run a lot of Airflow pipelines. And this is just really exciting to see. And another thing that I'm curious how it's going to change next year and the years ahead, as mostly these instances are probably still provisioned by humans. But if we have our lobsters or our other types of agents starting to provision Airflow infrastructure, I think we're going to see much more people who are running hundreds of Airflow instances. Of course, 2025 had the biggest event in Airflow history, the release of Airflow 3. And this was literally the first question I checked. Like once I got the raw data, the first thing I did was, okay, how many people are on Airflow 3? Because we didn't know at this point. It was just 5 to 7 years after the release that the survey ran. So that is really soon after a major release for people to have upgraded. So this could have been anything, and 26% is much more than I expected. So I'm really happy to see a quarter of people are on Airflow 3 already, or were on it already in end of last year. I expect that is now much higher. Also, the second most common, the second response being on Airflow version 2.8 to 2.11, that shows that people are upgrading and are hopefully ready to upgrade to Airflow 3 as well. We also asked about upgrading frequency. This was also in relation to like times of support and how do people upgrade? When can we expect more people to be on Airflow 3? And you can see it's very flat. There's people who have all sorts of upgrading cadence. 22% said whenever there's a new version. This was more than I experienced, made me really happy. And then you can see there's people who upgrade every 6 months, 12 months, once a quarter, less than every 12 months. So for all types of cadences, you have people. This was also in part correlated, of course, to company size. Large companies take more time to upgrade because they have larger environments and also because they have higher requirements to be able to upgrade. Now, we're not just upgrading just so we're not on an old version anymore. We are upgrading because we want the latest features. And this is the feature adoption question. So you can see here which features are very popular amongst Airflow users. And 2 years in a row, data-driven scheduling won. So this relates to datasets in Airflow 2 and assets in Airflow 3. And this is a great confirmation of people actually liking this feature, liking to use assets to schedule their tasks, liking this data-driven approach. And this also was part of the reason why there's so much development effort now going towards Airflow 3.2, as Jed mentioned, with asset features. So more features for the most popular Airflow feature. You can also see something else here that's really interesting, if we just look at features that are either only in Airflow 3 or mostly used in Airflow 3, you can see that those already have high adoption, especially event-driven scheduling and DAG bundles, obviously, but also an asset syntax is coming up and remote execution and multiple executor configuration. We can look at this a little more with the executors question. Kubernetes executor is still winning, but you can see that Astro executor and Edge executor, which didn't even exist last year, we didn't even have them in the survey, they both see adoption. And Edge executor obviously is used for remote execution, and the Astro executor, which is only available in Astro, also has remote execution capability. So you can see people going towards these new executors likely to do remote execution with their pipelines. Now, Airflow 3, of course, had a huge architecture change to enable things like remote execution, but also the possibility to have task SDKs in other languages than Python. And this was another new question. If you can add any language to your pipeline, in which language would you want to write your Airflow DAGs? This was especially important for Vikram and the team who's working on the task SDK, Ash. Are you even picking the right languages that you spend a lot of time on writing the task SDK? And it was really great to see that Golang, which was the first language picked for the experimental task SDK, came in second at 16.7%. And the second language where development is already underway for task SDK, Java, was the language that won. There was a follow-up question here asking people, well, if you will be able to build your DAGs with that language, what kind of use cases, what could you do with that? And there are a lot of really interesting, very long, detailed answers. I highly recommend you check that out in the full results. I just want to summarize all of that by saying, yes, so many things in my mind of things we could do with these new languages. Okay, we have to build a lot more pipelines, so we turn to AI, right? This year was the first year that we actually asked people, are they using AI to write their DAG code? And as expected, the answer is a pretty overwhelming yes. There were only about 16% who said that they do not use AI to write their DAGs. And there's 11% who say they always use AI. So this is really here to stay. And including for my team, we need to think about not just what we are doing for humans to be able to better use Airflow, but also how we make information available and accessible to AI agents who are writing Airflow DAGs. I don't know if you tried AI-generated DAGs before and how happy you were with the results. Asking the Airflow community, only 9% said that they are happy with the DAGs that AI writes, which is even more than I expected. It's been rare that I was happy with the DAG that a generic AI wrote for me. If you type into ChatGPT now, write me a DAG that does this and this, you will end up with a lot of interesting responses. And the most common complaint was hallucinations. Of course, we've all had that. The AI expects an operator to exist that you have definitely not created yet. Outdated syntax, especially going from Airflow 2 to Airflow 3. Bad practices. I don't know about you, but Claude for me really struggles with idempotency, even if I explicitly tell it to use idempotency. Missing business context. Code that isn't performant. This here sadly is a real example. That happened about 2 weeks ago that an AI told me we could just insert one row at a time into the table, which eventually it will work, but it will take a while. So yeah, we run into all of these issues. And if you want to have a better time using AI for your DAGs, if you want to make your robots happy, I just wanted to quickly shout out that Astronomer has written some AI skills. They are open source now, and you can access them in the agents repo. I know this is too busy of a slide, but here you can see what people say can be improved in Airflow. And I wanted to show you the full slide that actually breaks this out again with advanced users, the purple ones, because I think it's really interesting to see people who have used Airflow for 5 or more years, what do they think can be improved? And if we look at the bars that are significantly higher for advanced users than for more beginner users, we see that experienced users want better local def, That makes sense. They want more logging, monitoring, and alerting. And they also want more abilities to test their DAGs and better lineage. And this really just spells out, I've debugged production issues. This is people who've moved on from just writing the DAGs and then running into issues, but thinking proactively, how can I debug something? How can I handle really big environments? Especially lineage, of course, is really useful if you have a lot of interconnected environments. So this was really interesting to see what advanced, experienced Airflow users are interested in, what types of new features they want. Then, of course, asking specifically for features, we had a second question like this. And here it's less clear. You mostly can see that the more advanced people are with Airflow, the more they want. So people ask for more features, the more experience they have. One of the things that stood out here for me, obviously multi-tenancy or multi-team is something that people are really interested in, is already in development. More support for data sets, data assets also is highly in Airflow 3.2. And you can see more options for event-driven scheduling. So this new feature in Airflow 3 already is highly adopted and people are already asking for more. There was one person who wrote in, which I thought was really interesting, the possibility to use some UI capabilities, such as human in the loop, from outside the UI. And this is already possible. So there are two learnings here. One is if we write a feature, if a feature is written or created, it also needs to be sure, we also need to be sure that it's accessible to everyone, that people even know what is possible with it. And just the idea of we're kind of moving from having these scheduled pipelines that run reliably in the background, they still exist, they are the foundation of everything, to more interactive pipeline, like having human in the loop and wanting to interact with Airflow from within other systems. So Airflow becomes more integrated in workflows for people. Then, of course, being a community event, what does the community want? The number one request every year is clear docs and examples, probably both for people to read themselves and to give to their AI agents to read. More best practice guidance, more virtual events, better resources for getting started, and more local meetups and events. And that's another place where the survey really comes in handy because we can see where are people at and where are a lot of people who use Airflow. We also asked where people get their information about Airflow releases. And here again, the docs, which that's another one Jed mentioned. There's much better search now in the Airflow docs, which is amazing. People really get their information about new Airflow releases from the docs, from the Airflow website. And the one other thing I wanted to call out here, more people follow Mark for Airflow news than get it from AI. That was my very happy moment because AI is not always up to date. So the world is still okay here. Also, side note to the person who wrote in my name, thank you, you made my day. Okay, people get new information about Airflow, write more DAGs, and this has an impact not just on organizations, but also on data engineering careers. And here we ask people, what impact do you expect will knowing Airflow have on your career in the next 5 years? And a lot of people said, yes, Airflow is central to their job and career and has already had a positive impact. And there's another big contingent. Obviously, this was highly correlated with people new to Airflow, from people saying they are currently pursuing more education in Airflow. So it's really a really great sign for the health of the community. That was my very quick walkthrough. I think I made it in 20 minutes. If you want to learn more about the state of Airflow, about the Airflow survey, there's the infographic on the Airflow website. There's also an editorialized version in the report that you can send to your manager for more, why is Airflow important? Why are you important? And at this point, again, thank you so much to everyone who decided on the questions, filled out the survey, promoted the survey. It's really important to the whole project. And special thanks to Bree for herding all the cats.
Well, thank you, Tamara, for analyzing the results. This community would not have this amazing overview without you. So hats off to Tamara. Really, really great work. Survey is my favorite thing about my job. So I love sharing it with the community. And thanks to everyone who filled it out. And if you didn't, make sure you do this year or you're in trouble. Okay. So next up, we have a presentation by Raoul Vatz. He is going to be chatting about his PR. I believe you won PR of the month this month. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, yes, right, you did. So congrats, Raul, on that. And would you like to drive or would you prefer I drive?
I would like to try, Fabri.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. I'll stop share.
Thank you. Let me share my screen real quick. Hey, everyone. Great presentation, Tamra, like always. Okay, I hope you guys are able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's talk about this PR. So basically, before I go into the details, why we did that and what is this PR all about, just wanted to give you a highlight that this PR is kind of like laying down the work in terms of adding more UI automation and end-to-end test. So let's talk about the problem first. So as you know, we have a like totally revamped UI in Airflow 3, and now it's totally React. And with a lot of commits and changes, we always need to get some work done on the test as well. So problems are listed here. So we don't have any automated testing around UI. Obviously, it is very, very hard to test manually each and every page, each and every flow, right? For every patch, minor releases or even major going forward. And and these UI bugs are then released and discovered late in the cycle, which obviously is not good. Other than that, it also uh, give us not much confidence to try it on different browser. I still remember that uh, around 3.0, we have some very basic flows which were not compatible and working with Firefox or let's say Safari. So these are few set of problems. Overall, the larger picture here is with coming so much of dev changes, we need to ensure that we are not lagging behind in adding tests for those. So that was one of the problem. We don't have much of good unit test and end-to-end test for the UI component. So our major goal here is to ensure that we do have good amount of unit test and end-to-end test and also integration test. Overall, follow the uh, testing pyramid, right? So to begin with this PR, what it does, it creates its, as I said, that it lays the foundation for a framework by which we can have end-to-end UI test. So we used Playwright here. I will talk about why we use Playwright, right, and not other popular frameworks like Selenium or Cypress. Also, with having this, we wanted to ensure that users, whoever is writing the UI code, developers can just like use Breeze integration with this, right? Which will help them have the environment up and ready of Airflow and then run these tests. Uh, as I said, that we wanted to ensure that these tests are executed on all the popular famous browsers. So we have support of Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit Safari, right? And we ensured here to use a page object model. I will talk about that more in detail. Is that we wanted to ensure that it's not only adding test here, we wanted to scale at large when we add more features and also add more integrations. So we wanted to be the whatever the initial framework we were writing, we wanted to set some practices which we follow, right? And also we wanted to ensure that whatever we are writing from day one is integrated with our CI, so that with every UI change, right, these tests are executed as part of our CI in the PR checks as well, and also on the can reruns. So that is what we aim for, right? These couple of things we have done, and now we are adding more test coverage to these, right? That is what we are doing. If I talk about the command, we have a very easy Breeze command with testing subcommand UI E2 test. We run this and we would be able to run all the tests which are available. So like this was the first thing which we discussed, that what would be our framework which we want to opt for. And we had a great discussion on the dev list. We had a couple of options, and I think most of the people suggested that we should go for Playwright because obviously it has native support for all these browser. One thing with my own experience I can say is that it has a lot of features which its other competitors like Selenium and Cypress might not have in terms of weighting, element detection. It's far superior with that, right? We have to, in Selenium, we had to put explicit weight and few other things, which Playwright does it by itself. Also, it has native TypeScript support, and we wanted to ensure that, as you know, that we are using TypeScript in UI. So we wanted to have the test with the same language instead of using Python and any other. We thought we should be using with that. So we are using Playwright with TypeScript here. It has parallel execution, which is important. As we grow our test, we don't want to wait on CI too much. So we increase the workers so that these tests can be executed parallelly. Also, we don't have any like issues in terms of getting the drivers like for different browser. We don't have to take care of that anymore. And obviously it's backed by Microsoft. So that's why we chose this framework. Just a high level of what we have. I can also open the PR and show you in detail. So essentially we have a breeze layer. I already mentioned that we have this command. Essentially what it does in the background is it try to see that if you have the Python image. If not, then it downloads for you, set up the infrastructure, install the Playwright for you, right? Does everything which is needed as the prerequisite to run the test, right? We have a Docker Compose layer, which essentially wait for all the components to be up and running, trigger the test, and also clean up afterwards, right? If I talk about the Playwright, it's just a structure we have right now. We have spec files, which includes the test, what we are aiming for. You can consider that as a business or the test case flow, and pages for respective page of Airflow, in which we can segregate into two ways. We can have functions, which are kind of operations on the page, and we can also have the locator there. So these are the three layers, if I wanted to explain from the structure point of view. Now, let me quickly try to show maybe, okay. So I'm running on Chromium right now and trying to run some test pattern so that I don't run everything right now. So I already had a image downloaded, as you see. It did earlier, so it's not doing that. And now it's trying to set up all the components. It might take a few seconds to get up. In the meanwhile, I can maybe quickly walk you through with the PR. So, okay, so this is the PR which we are talking about. And okay, so we have a couple of pages. So now obviously these are now increased, which with the support of community, I can say like we have a lot of work ongoing. So obviously we have more pages here in which we are having all the test, right? Like not test, the locators and the methods. And then we have some spec pages like in which we ideally add a test. And we do have more test here as well. Yeah, these are the tests and these are the pages. So this is how much has been covered right now in main. Also, we have all the configurations. We try to use these configurations in the Playwright config. And as I mentioned that it is integrated with the Breeze. So we have created this and all these are the options. So basically with Playwright, you have like amazing set of like options which you can use while running the test. You can use the UI mode, which is like I for me, it's kind of uh, like one of the best debugging. When we are trying to write a test, it gives you a UI interface by which you can run in the interface and then stop to see that how the test is progressing. And it helps me a lot in debugging, right? Also, you can have headed and non-headed mode. So essentially by headed, it will open the browser for you. And if you have non-headed, it will just run it at the background. So we have a lot of options here, which you can also try it out. And all the options which Playwright provides, we tried like providing that in our breeze command through here. So yeah, while it's running, so okay, so essentially it ran the test while we were just going through with the PR. So all the tests are here. It also generates a report. And yeah, so something like this, which have all the steps and all. And in case there is a failure, it will also basically like give you the screenshot and also a quick snip video as well, which will help you debug the issue. And that is also great. So if I talk about let me go ahead. So if I talk about, yeah, this is our meta issue, which I was just discussing that we are implementing. So right now, this might be few more than 65, around 10 more on it. And there are almost close to 45, 46 scenarios which we have done, and it could have not been done with the help of the community. I see a lot of enthusiasm by the new contributors. I see there are a lot of new contributors, and I think uh, my friend here, Yanguk Chu, is also partner on this. He has helped a lot. So great shout out to him as well in reviewing and other stuff, and also looking into fix failures and all. So I think we are doing a pretty good job here, but this is just a start. We have to do a lot of coverage in terms of not end to end only, but also unit. So my goal going forward is to like just derive more test in the unit going further, and then see whatever we want in UI, which covers all the flows which users generally use to have that as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So almost more than 20 plus contributor we have here who has been working on this. So yeah, if anyone wants to contribute, this is the issue. We don't have any current open issues, but I would be creating more, right? So feel free to join in. Just comment on the issues if there is an unassigned issue, and I would be happy to help you support to get into this. And just to add, this is a very good opportunity to contribute, because if you are adding a test, it will help you understand the airflow more. And then obviously you can just contribute to CI, you can contribute to dev, anything what you want to do. So I've seen some contributors while writing, they have noticed some small issues in the UI, and they have also fixed that and kind of made some contribution in the dev as well. So great place to start if you are a beginner on this. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my end, Bree. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Raul. And again, congrats on winning PR of the month. Very well deserved. If anyone has any questions for Raul, please drop them in the chat and he will make sure to answer them. Next up, we have one more PR and then we have our community spotlight, and then we'll get you guys out of here. So, Zhuangdu, would you prefer iDrive or would you like to present?
Can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, real clear. Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Jongwoo, data engineer in Naver Webtoon. Today I'll be discussing a memory issue we encounter with Airflow local executor and how I resolve it. Let me start with the problems. Local executor create worker subprocess inside the scheduler. By default, it spawned 32 workers and noticed that these worker process were experiencing continuous memory growth. Specifically, memory that initially started at 20 to 30 megabyte would grow to over 100 megabyte after just 1 or 2 hours. I observed a pattern where memory would sudden jump. The PSS and USS was continuously increasing in the worker process. Local executor creates worker using the fork method in Linux environments. The main feature of forker is that the subprocess can use the parent's memory state at the point of forking, and it initially references the same memory pages. Later, when modification occurs to these objects, the pages are copied to occupy separated memory region. This called copy on write, and when this happens, PSS memory increases. We are helping me identify the general cause of the problem. Copy on write was being triggered in the fork process worker, and this was suspect to be caused by Python GC, the garbage collector. I try our first solution approach. Copy on write caused by Python GC is beyond our control. So what we What if we minimize memory at the point when workers fork? Even if copy on write occurs, it should not cause memory spike. However, there was a problem with this approach. The moment you enter the Airflow scheduler command, Airflow init, main, and scheduler job runner are executed. During this process alone, about 150 megabytes of heavy objects are loaded. This includes heavy library like SQL Alchemy, Fast API, Kubernetes client, and DAG metadata. Controlling this was essentially impossible. So I dug deeper into why copyright was being triggered. Python class objects store GC-related information in their header. This called PyGC head. Objects in the same GC generation are linked as a doubly linked list, and each object PyGC head store prev and next pointer. What happens when GC learns? As objects are collected or moved to different generation, the prev and next pointer change. This trigger modification to PyGC head. The key point here is that even though only the header was modified, the write operation occurred with trigger copy on write. Even though actual object value remained the same, unnecessary memory copying occurs, and this what caused PSS and USS to increase. So I found the second solution inspired by Instagram article. I decided to apply GC phrase. What happens when you call these functions? All object tracked by GC are moved to the permanent generation. This means these objects are no longer affected by GC. By not being affected by GC, YGC head modification are eliminated and copy on write can be prevented. The important point is that the exacting reference count mechanism remain valid, so object cleanup still continues. Let me explain the implementation approach. After fork, the child process get a separate Py interpreter state with independent GC state. When GC unfreezes core in the parent process, only parent GC state is affected. Therefore, the parent scheduler continues normal GC operation. Meanwhile, the worker's frozen object remain in the permanent generation. The worker's GC never shuffle this object, so copy on write doesn't occur. Let's look at the result. This is the memory table of the running many tasks over 14 hours. To compare to before, you can see that the memory growth has stabilized. Finally, let me discuss future plans. Could this be applied to other components that use fork? Have already applied it to the data processor. I have confirmed that the memory growth has stabilized. There's also interesting hypothesis. If the copy on write related memory issue is resolved, wouldn't preloading more module improve performance is fork scenario? It's just a hypothesis for now. It's worth to trying on data processor and salary worker as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jungwoo. If anyone has any questions for Jungwoo, please drop them in the chat. Okay, and now we'll just close out with our community spotlight. So most important update is that the CFP and super early bird tickets for Airflow Summit are available right now. Airflow Summit will be taking place in Austin, Texas this year from August 31st to September 2nd. We're looking forward to a really incredible event this year. We already have many people who have submitted awesome talks. So if that is one of you, thank you so much. And just a reminder that the CFP closes a little bit earlier this year on March 13th. So you have a little over a month to submit your talk or your workshop or whatever. So just make sure you get that in as soon as possible. The links are all on the Airflow website, and there are detailed instructions on how to submit your CFP on that page as well. So make sure you read all of that carefully. We're really excited about the event this year, so hopefully many of you participate again or for the first time. So thank you to everyone for that. And then a couple reminders here. Make sure that you join Airflow Slack. So if you're not already in Airflow Slack, make sure you join. Join Meetup. If you have meetups in your city, you can get updated on those. And then make sure you subscribe to the Airflow newsletter and also join the dev list. And I'll make sure to share all those links in the YouTube recording as well, so you can access that. All right, and with that, I will let you all go back to your hopefully awesome Fridays. Have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks everyone for joining today. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.